Some wolves are bought with gold, others are paid for in blood and claimed by fate. The transaction was clinical, no romance, no pretense of destiny or divine pairing. Astrid stood in the marble hall of the Crescent auction house, her wrists bound in silver cuffs that burned against her skin. Around her, other Omegas trembled, some wept, others stared blankly ahead. She did neither. Her green eyes remained fixed on the frosted windows, where snow fell in thick, silent curtains over the capital city of Norvengard. She had sold herself. Not out of desperation, but calculation. Her younger brother needed surgery. Her mother's debts to the rogue creditors were mounting. And Astrid had one thing of value left: her body, her heat, her Omega biology that alphas paid fortunes to access for a single night. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the hall. Lot 17, unmated Omega. 23 years, no prior bonds, clean lineage, certified fertile. Astrid felt the weight of 100 eyes, alphas in tailored suits, betas with ledgers, wealthy merchants and minor lords looking for an evening's indulgence or a potential breeder they could claim later. She did not look at them. The bidding began at 5,000 marks. It climbed rapidly. 10, 15, 25. Astrid's heart remained steady. She had learned long ago that survival required the ability to separate her soul from her skin. Then the room went silent. A figure entered from the rear, tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a black wool cloak dusted with snow. His presence was a blade cutting through the air. Conversations died. Even the auctioneer hesitated. Astrid turned her head slightly. The man's face was partially obscured by the shadow of his hood, but his eyes, silver, cold, ancient, found hers across the distance. For a heartbeat, the world contracted to that single point of contact. Her wolf stirred for the first time in years. 100,000 marks, the man said. His voice was low, controlled, and final. The auctioneer blinked. Sir, the current bid is only 100,000, now. No one dared counter. The auctioneer's gavel fell. Sold. Astrid's breath caught. She had expected a merchant, a minor alpha looking to sire a child. Not this. Not someone whose very presence felt like winter itself had taken human form. The silver cuffs were removed. Her wrists ached where the metal had burned. An attendant gestured for her to follow the cloaked figure, who had already turned and was walking toward the exit. She followed. Outside, the cold hit her like a fist. Snow swirled in the courtyard. A black carriage waited, its horses stamping impatiently. The man opened the door himself. No servant, no ceremony. Get in, he said. Astrid climbed inside. The interior was warm, lined with dark velvet. She sat on one side. He sat across from her, finally pushing back his hood. Her breath stilled. He was younger than she expected, perhaps 30, but his face carried the weight of centuries. Sharp jawline, silver white hair tied back, scars along his neck that disappeared beneath his collar. And those eyes, not just silver, but luminous, as if the moon itself burned behind them. You are King Alaric Frostborn, she said quietly. He did not smile. I am. The Alpha King, ruler of the Northern Territories, the wolf who had united 6 warring packs under one banner, the male whose mate had died 3 years ago in childbirth, taking his unborn heir with her. Why? Astrid asked. Why what? Why pay a fortune for one night with a stranger? Alaric's gaze did not waver. Because my wolf is dying. Silence filled the carriage. The horses began to move, pulling them through the snowy streets toward the castle that loomed on the northern cliffs. Your wolf, Astrid repeated slowly. He has refused every Omega presented to him since my mate's death. Healers say he is fading into madness, that if he does not bond again, he will consume me from within. Alaric leaned forward slightly. I do not believe in fate, Miss Astrid. I believe in necessity. You were the only one in that room whose scent did not repulse him. Astrid's chest tightened. So I am medicine. You are a transaction. And after tonight? You will be paid double the auction price. You will leave, and we will never see each other again. His tone was factual, detached, but Astrid saw the flicker beneath, the exhaustion, the grief he carried like armor. She nodded slowly. One night. One night. The carriage climbed the winding road toward Frostbourne Keep. The castle rose against the night sky, its towers dark and sharp as broken teeth. Snow clung to the battlements, torches burned in the windows, casting flickering light across the stone. They entered through a side gate. No fanfare, no guards asking questions. Alaric led her through shadowed corridors, past empty halls that should have been filled with courtiers and life. He stopped at a heavy oak door. This is my chamber. Astrid stepped inside. The room was vast, a four-poster bed draped in furs, a fireplace crackling with orange flame, windows overlooking the frozen sea. It smelled of pine and ash and something older, something wild. Alaric closed the door behind them. He did not move toward her. Instead, he stood near the fire, his back to her, staring into the flames. You do not have to be afraid, he said quietly. I am not afraid. He glanced over his shoulder. Then you are either very brave or very foolish. Neither. I am practical. A ghost of a smile touched his lips, then vanished. My wolf will surface during the night. He is not gentle. If at any point you wish to stop— I agreed to this, Astrid interrupted. I do not break my word. Alaric turned fully to face her. For a long moment he simply looked at her, not with lust, but with something deeper. Grief, loneliness, the recognition of another soul who had learned to survive by locking away the parts that still ached. What is your brother's name? He asked suddenly. Astrid blinked. Elias. Why? Because I want to know why you are here. She held his gaze. He needs surgery. My mother owes debts to rogues who will kill her if she does not pay. I am here because I chose the only path that would save them both. Alaric nodded slowly. Then we are the same. How? We both sacrifice pieces of ourselves to protect what we love. The fire crackled. Snow tapped against the windows. And in that moment, Astrid understood that this night would not be what either of them expected, because some bonds are not forged in passion. They are forged in shared wounds, and the quiet recognition of two souls who have both learned that survival comes at a cost. Alaric stepped closer. His scent, pine, snow, iron, wrapped around her. Her wolf stirred again, restless, curious. One night, he whispered. One night, she echoed. But even as she spoke the words, something ancient and undeniable whispered a different truth. And now, I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments of the night they find you. The fire burned low. Shadows danced across the stone walls of Alaric's chamber, like ghosts of all the nights he had spent alone since Alara's death. Astrid stood near the window, her fingers tracing the frost that clung to the glass. She could feel his eyes on her, not predatory, but assessing, calculating. You have questions, she said without turning. Several. Ask them. Alaric moved closer, his footsteps silent despite his size. Why did you not fight the auction? You carry yourself like someone who knows how to survive. Surely there were other options. Astrid's reflection in the glass was pale, ghostly. Fighting would have been indulgent. The creditors would have taken my brother as collateral. My mother would have been sold to a labor camp. This way, I control the narrative. By selling yourself. By making a choice. She turned to face him. Is that not what kings do? Sacrifice one thing to preserve another? His jaw tightened. You speak like someone who has already died once. I have. The admission hung in the air between them. Alaric tilted his head slightly, studying her with those silver eyes that seemed to see through skin and bone into the marrow of truth. Tell me, he said softly. Astrid crossed her arms, a defensive gesture she hated but could not suppress. I was mated once, 3 years ago, to an alpha from the southern packs, Eric Blackthorn. He claimed me in front of the elders, marked me, swore the old oaths. And 6 months later, he rejected me, publicly, said I was barren, that my wolf was too weak to bear strong heirs. Her voice remained steady, clinical. The rejection broke the bond. I felt my wolf retreat so far inside me that I thought she had died. I spent 2 months in a healing house, unable to walk, unable to speak. When I finally recovered, I was nothing. No pack, no status. Just a rejected Omega with a scar on her neck where his mark used to be. Alaric's expression darkened. Eric Blackthorn. I know the name. Most do. He is dead. Astrid's eyes widened slightly. What? He challenged a rival alpha for territory 6 months ago. Lost. His throat was torn out in front of his own pack. Alaric's tone was flat, factual. The rival claimed his lands, his title, and his remaining mates. Something cold and sharp twisted in Astrid's chest. Not grief, not satisfaction, just the hollow acknowledgement that the male who had destroyed her was gone, and his absence changed nothing. Good, she whispered. Alaric stepped closer. You do not mean that. I do. No. His hand rose slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. When she did not, he touched her chin, tilting her face toward the firelight. You mean you wish it mattered? But it does not, because his death does not undo what he took from you. Astrid's breath hitched. She hated how easily he read her, hated how his touch, gentle, almost reverent, made her wolf stir with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Why did you really buy me? She asked, her voice barely audible. Alaric's thumb brushed her jaw. Because when you entered that hall, my wolf, who has been silent and feral for 3 years, lifted his head and whispered one word. What word? Ours. The truth of it hit her like a physical blow. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against the walls of her consciousness with a desperation she had not felt since before Eric's rejection. That is impossible, Astrid breathed. You cannot have 2 mates. I know. The bond does not work that way. I know. Then why? Because my wolf does not care about logic or propriety or the laws written by elders who have never felt what it means to lose half your soul. Alaric's grip tightened slightly, not painful, but grounding. He wants you, and I do not know if that makes you my salvation or my damnation. Astrid's heart pounded. She should pull away, should remind him this was a transaction, nothing more. But her wolf was clawing at her ribs, begging her to lean into his touch, to accept the impossible thing he was offering. One night, she said, her voice shaking. One night, he agreed, but neither of them believed it anymore. Alaric released her and stepped back. He moved to the bed, sitting on the edge, his hands clasped between his knees. My wolf will surface soon. When he does, he will try to claim you, fully, permanently. And if I refuse, then I will restrain him, and you will walk out of here in the morning with your payment and your freedom. And if I do not refuse? His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw fear in them, raw, unguarded. Then we will both be bound to something neither of us understands, and I cannot promise it will not destroy us both. Astrid moved toward him slowly. Her body felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone braver, someone who had not been shattered and remade into something sharp and wary. She stopped in front of him. "I have already been destroyed once, Your Majesty. I survived. I will survive this too." Alaric looked up at her, and something in his expression cracked. "You should not have to survive me. Perhaps. But here we are." She reached out and touched his face. His skin was warm despite the cold that seemed to radiate from him. He closed his eyes, leaning into her palm like a wolf seeking comfort from the only hand that had ever offered it without condition. "Astrid," he whispered. "Yes?" "I am not a good male. I know. I have killed. I have made choices that haunt me. I know. And I will not be able to let you go after tonight." Her breath caught. "I know." His eyes opened. Silver bled into gold. His wolf was rising. "Then stay," he growled, his voice layered with something ancient and feral. "Stay and let me worship you the way you were always meant to be worshipped. Stay and let me prove that rejection was never your truth. It was his failure." Astrid's wolf howled in answer, and when Alaric rose and pulled her against him, when his mouth found hers with a desperation that tasted of grief and hope and 3 years of unbearable solitude, she did not pull away. She stayed. Because some nights are not transactions. They are resurrections. The fire had burned to embers by the time they lay tangled in furs, their breathing synchronized, their bodies pressed together as if afraid the morning light would tear them apart. Astrid's head rested on Alaric's chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady, strong, a rhythm her wolf recognized as home even though her mind knew better. His fingers traced lazy patterns along her spine. "You are thinking too loudly," he murmured. "I am thinking you made a terrible investment." "Explain." "You paid for one night, but your wolf has already decided it will not end there." Alaric's hand stilled. "And what does your wolf say?" Astrid closed her eyes. Her wolf was curled contentedly in her chest, purring for the first time in 3 years. "She says she is tired of running." "Then stop running. It is not that simple." "It is exactly that simple." Alaric shifted, turning so they faced each other. His silver eyes searched hers. "I am not asking you to trust me. I am not asking you to love me. I am asking you to stay long enough to see if this, whatever this is worth fighting for. And if it is not, then I will let you go." "Will you?" He hesitated. "No, but I will try." The honesty of it made her chest ache. Astrid reached up and touched the scar on his neck, the one she had noticed earlier. "How did you get this?" "A rival alpha, 10 years ago. He tried to take my territory by killing me in single combat." "What happened to him?" "I tore his heart out and sent it back to his pack in a silver box." Astrid should have been horrified. Instead, she felt her wolf rumble with approval. "You are brutal." "I am a king. Brutality is required." "And mercy?" "That," he said quietly, "I am still learning." She studied him, this male who had bought her like livestock and then treated her like something sacred. This king who carried his grief like a crown and his guilt like chains. "Tell me about her," Astrid said softly. "Your mate." Alaric's jaw tightened. "Why?" "Because she is between us, and she always will be unless you let me see her." He was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he began to speak. Ilara was gentle, kind. She believed in the goodness of wolves even when they gave her no reason to. She loved children, loved music, loved the way snow looked under moonlight. His voice cracked. "She was everything I was not, and I thought that made us perfect." "What happened?" "She became pregnant. The healers said it was a miracle. Alphas and omegas of our bloodlines rarely conceive. She was overjoyed. I was terrified." He exhaled slowly. "The labor lasted 2 days. She was so small, so fragile. The child was too large. They both died in my arms while I begged the goddess for mercy she did not grant." Astrid's throat tightened. She understood now the reason his wolf had gone feral, the reason he had locked himself away from the world. He had not just lost a mate, he had lost his faith. "I am sorry," she whispered. "Do not be. It was my fault." "How?" "Because I should have been stronger, should have found a way to save them both." Astrid cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You cannot save everyone, Alaric. Not even kings have that power." "Then what good am I?" "You are here. You are breathing. You are trying." She leaned her forehead against his. "That is enough." His arms wrapped around her, pulling her so close she could barely breathe. "I do not deserve you. You do not get to decide that. Astrid, no, listen to me." Her voice was fierce now. Fierce in a way it had not been since Eric had torn her apart. "I was rejected, broken, cast aside like I was nothing, and I rebuilt myself piece by piece into someone who could survive. If I can do that, you can learn to forgive yourself for not being a god." Alaric stared at her, something raw and vulnerable breaking across his face. "You are right. I know. You are also insufferable. I know that too." And for the first time since she had met him, Alaric Frostborn laughed. It was a rough, rusty sound, like something long unused, finally remembering how to work. Astrid smiled, and in that moment she realized she was in terrible, terrible danger, because she was beginning to care. And caring, she knew, was the first step toward breaking all over again. Morning came cold and unforgiving. Pale light filtered through the frosted windows, casting the chamber in shades of silver and gray. Astrid woke alone. The space beside her was empty but still warm. She sat up slowly, pulling the furs around her shoulders, her body aching in ways that reminded her she was still alive, still capable of feeling something other than numbness. A note rested on the pillow where Alaric's head had been. "Council meeting. Will return by midday. Stay." A one word, stay, as if it were that simple. Astrid rose and dressed in the simple gown that had been laid out for her. Deep blue wool, embroidered with silver thread. It fit perfectly, which meant someone had measured her while she slept. The thought should have unsettled her. Instead, it felt strangely intimate. She opened the door and stepped into the corridor. The castle was waking, servants moving quietly through the halls, guards changing shifts at the gates. No one stopped her. No one questioned her presence. She wandered until she found a balcony overlooking the sea. The water was frozen at the edges, chunks of ice floating like shattered glass. Snow fell in thick, lazy flakes. "You should not be out here without a cloak." Astrid turned. A woman stood behind her, older, perhaps 50, with silver-streaked hair and sharp green eyes. She wore the robes of a healer, the crest of Frostborn embroidered on her chest. "I am fine," Astrid said. "You are freezing." The woman stepped forward, draping a heavy fur cloak over Astrid's shoulders. "Better?" "Thank you. I am Marin, head healer of Frostborn Keep." "Astrid, I know who you are." Marin's tone was not unkind, but there was an edge to it. The Omega the king bought at auction. Word travels fast. In this castle, everything travels fast. Marin leaned against the balcony railing, her gaze fixed on the frozen sea. "You should know that the court is divided about you. I did not ask to be here." "No, but you are, and that changes things." "What things?" Marin glanced at her. "The king has not touched another woman since Ilara died. He has refused every political match, every offering from allied pacts. The council thought he would die alone and childless, leaving the throne vulnerable." She paused, and then you appeared. Astrid's chest tightened. "I am not his mate. His wolf thinks otherwise. His wolf is grieving, perhaps, or perhaps his wolf knows something the rest of us do not." Marin straightened. "Either way, you should be careful. There are those in this court who see you as a threat. A threat to what? To their plans, to their power, to the fragile balance that has kept this kingdom from tearing itself apart. Marin's expression softened slightly. I do not say this to frighten you. I say it because you seem like someone who prefers truth to comfort. I do. Good. Then hear this. Alaric is not just a king. He is a symbol, the wolf who united the North. If he bonds with you, it will send a message that he is moving forward, that he is ready to lead again. And there are wolves who do not want that. Why not? Because a grieving king is easier to manipulate than a whole one. The words settled over Astrid like fresh snow, cold, inevitable, suffocating. What do you suggest I do? She asked quietly. Survive. Marin touched her shoulder briefly. And if you truly care for him, teach him that mercy is not weakness, because that is the lesson he needs most. Before Astrid could respond, Marin turned and walked back into the castle, leaving her alone with the snow and the sea and the weight of a truth she had not asked for. She stayed on the balcony until her fingers were numb and her face was wet with melted snow, or tears, she was not sure which. When she finally returned to Alaric's chamber, she found him sitting by the fire, his head in his hands. Alaric? He looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, his expression haunted. They want me to send you away. Astrid's heart sank. The council? Yes, they say you are a distraction, a liability. That bonding with a rejected Omega will weaken my claim to the throne. And what do you say? He stood, crossing the room in 3 long strides. His hands framed her face, tilting her head back so she had no choice but to meet his gaze. I say they can burn in hell. Alaric, no, listen to me. His voice was rough, desperate. I spent 3 years in darkness, 3 years believing I was beyond saving. And then you walked into that auction house, and my wolf, my broken, feral wolf, recognized you as something worth fighting for. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. I do not care what the council says. I do not care about politics or propriety or bloodlines. I care about this, about you, about the way you make me feel like I might still be capable of something other than grief. Astrid's breath shook. You barely know me. I know enough. You are making a mistake. Then let me make it. She wanted to argue, wanted to remind him that kings could not afford mistakes, that she was not worth the cost. But the words died on her lips because his wolf was in his eyes now, gold bleeding through silver, and she could feel the bond forming between them, fragile, impossible, undeniable. 1 week, she whispered. What? Give me 1 week. Let me stay here. Let us see if this is real or just grief wearing the mask of fate. If after 7 days you still want me, then we will talk about what comes next. Alaric's jaw worked. And if I already know? Then prove it. He kissed her then, not gentle, not tentative, but with the ferocity of a male who had spent too long denying himself the right to want something beyond duty. And Astrid kissed him back, because maybe Marin was right. Maybe mercy was not weakness. Maybe it was the only thing that could save them both. The week passed like a fever dream. Astrid woke each morning in Alaric's arms, his body curved around hers as if he feared she would vanish in the night. They spoke little. Words felt unnecessary when their wolves communicated in glances and touches and the quiet understanding of 2 souls who had both learned what it meant to be broken. During the days, Alaric attended to his duties. Astrid explored the castle, memorizing its corridors and courtyards, learning the rhythms of the pack that called Frostborn keep home. She met the warriors, grizzled alphas, who eyed her with suspicion until she helped tend their wounds after a training session, her touch steady and sure. She met the children, pups who did not care about her status, only that she told them stories about distant lands and magical wolves who could speak to the moon. And she met the council. That was where the danger lived. On the 5th day, she was summoned to the throne room. Alaric sat on the dais, his posture regal, but his eyes shadowed. Around him stood the 5 members of his inner council, alphas and betas, who had served his father before him. Astrid entered alone. She wore the blue gown, her hair pulled back in a simple braid. She looked neither meek nor defiant, just present. The eldest counselor, a gray-haired alpha named Torin, stepped forward. "Miss Astrid, we have questions." "Ask them." "What are your intentions toward the king?" "To stay if he wishes it, to leave if he does not." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer I have." Torin's eyes narrowed. "You were rejected by your previous mate. Why should we believe you are capable of bonding with our king?" The question was a blade, sharp and deliberate. Astrid felt its edge, but she did not flinch. "Because rejection does not define capability," she said evenly. "It defines cowardice. My former mate rejected me because he lacked the strength to accept what I was. That failure was his, not mine." Murmurs rippled through the council. Alaric's expression remained neutral, but she saw the flicker of approval in his eyes. Another counselor, a beta woman named Lisa, spoke next. "The king needs an heir. Can you provide one?" "I do not know." "That is unacceptable." "Perhaps, but it is honest." Astrid stepped forward. "I will not lie to you. I do not know if I can bear children. I do not know if the bond between the king and me will last beyond this week. What I do know is this. I will not pretend to be something I am not to secure your approval. If that makes me unsuitable, then so be it." Silence fell. Torin exchanged glances with the other counselors. "You are bold," he said finally. "I am honest. Honesty does not rule kingdoms. No, but it builds trust. And without trust, kingdoms fall." Alaric rose from his throne. The movement was sudden, commanding. "Enough!" The counselors turned to him. "You question her intentions," Alaric said, his voice low and dangerous. "But what of yours? You pushed me to remarry for 3 years. You paraded omegas before me like livestock. You told me my grief was weakness, that my refusal to bond made me unfit to lead." He descended the dais slowly. "And now, when my wolf finally recognizes someone worth claiming, you dare to tell me she is not good enough?" "Your Majesty," Torin began. "No." Alaric's eyes flashed gold. "You do not get to decide who is worthy of standing beside me. That choice is mine, and I have made it." The room went still. Astrid's heart pounded. She had not expected this public declaration, this willingness to defy his own counsel for her sake. "Are you bonding with her?" Lisa asked carefully. Alaric looked at Astrid. His gaze was steady, unwavering. "Yes. Your Majesty, this is final." He turned back to the council. "Prepare the ceremony for the next full moon. Astrid will be recognized as my mate before the pack. Any who oppose this are free to challenge me in single combat." No one spoke. No one dared. Alaric extended his hand to Astrid. She took it, her fingers trembling slightly as he pulled her to his side. "Dismissed," he said. The counselors filed out, their expressions ranging from shock to barely concealed fury. Only Marin lingered near the door, her eyes meeting Astrid's briefly before she too departed. When they were alone, Astrid turned to Alaric. "You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did. They will hate me. They already did. Now at least they know where I stand." "Alaric!" He cupped her face, his touch gentle despite the fire in his eyes. "You asked for 1 week. I gave it to you. Now I am asking for forever." Her breath caught. Forever is a long time. Not long enough. She wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons this was madness, but her wolf was howling with joy, and her heart, Her battered, scarred heart was whispering that maybe, just maybe, she deserved this. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes? Yes, I will bond with you. I will stand beside you. I will fight for this, for us, for whatever comes next." Alaric kissed her then, in the empty throne room, under the gaze of painted kings and the memory of a kingdom that had waited 3 years for its ruler to come back to life. And when they finally pulled apart, Astrid realized the truth. She was no longer surviving. She was living. And that terrified her more than anything else ever had. The days before the full moon were a storm of preparation. Seamstresses arrived to fit Astrid for the bonding gown. White silk embroidered with silver wolves and crescent moons. Elders came to teach her the ancient rites, the words she would speak under the goddess's light. Warriors trained harder, as if preparing for war rather than a wedding. And through it all, Astrid felt the weight of eyes upon her. Some were curious, others envious, a few were openly hostile. On the 8th night, she woke to find Alaric standing by the window, staring out at the snow-covered mountains. His shoulders were tense, his jaw tight. "You are thinking too loudly again," she said softly. He did not turn. "I am thinking that I am asking you to step into a fire. I know. You will be questioned, tested. There will be wolves who try to hurt you to get to me. I know that too. And still you stay." Astrid rose and crossed to him, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. She pressed her cheek to his back, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "I stay because you are worth it." "Am I?" "Yes." He turned in her arms, his hands settling on her hips. "I am not the male I was before Alara died. I am harder, colder. I have made choices that stain my soul. Tell me one." "What?" "Tell me one choice that haunts you." Alaric hesitated, then slowly he began to speak. 2 years ago, a rogue pack invaded our northern border. They slaughtered an entire village, women, children, elders. When my warriors captured them, they begged for mercy, said they were starving, desperate. What did you do? I executed them, all 23, in front of the survivors. Astrid was silent for a long moment. "Do you regret it?" "Every day." "Do you think you were wrong?" "I do not know. I only know that I see their faces every time I close my eyes." She reached up and touched his cheek. "You carry your choices like wounds. But Alaric, mercy without justice is not mercy. It is cowardice. And justice without mercy is not justice. It is cruelty. You did what you believed was right to protect your people. That does not make you a monster. It makes you a king." His eyes searched hers. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "Make me feel like I might still be capable of goodness." "Because you are." She kissed him softly. "You just forgot for a while." He pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world. "I do not deserve you." "Stop saying that." "It is the truth." "No, it is fear." She pulled back slightly. "You are afraid that if you believe you deserve happiness, the goddess will take it away again. But Alaric, hiding from joy does not protect you from grief. It just makes you half alive." His breath shuddered. "You are too wise for someone so young. I am 23. I am not that young. Compared to me, you are a child. Then teach me." Her eyes glinted with mischief. "Teach me what it means to be old and grumpy and impossibly stubborn." He laughed, that rare, rusty sound that made her heart soar. "You are insufferable." "And you love it." "I do." The admission hung between them, heavier than any vow. "Say it again," Astrid whispered. "I love it." "No. Say what you mean." Alaric's hands framed her face. His eyes were molten silver, burning with something that felt like worship. "I love you, Astrid. I love your strength and your fire, and the way you refuse to let me hide behind my guilt. I love that you see me, truly see me, and do not turn away." Tears pricked her eyes. "I love you too, and I am terrified." "Why?" "Because loving you means risking everything I rebuilt after Eric destroyed me. It means trusting that you will not do the same." "I will not. You cannot promise that." "No, but I can promise to try every single day to be worthy of the trust you are giving me." She kissed him then, pouring every ounce of hope and fear and desperate longing into that single touch. And when they finally broke apart, breathless and trembling, Astrid knew there was no going back. She had chosen him, and he had chosen her. Now they just had to survive what came next. Subscribe if you believe mercy can crown even the fallen. The full moon rose like a bone-white eye over Frostborn Keep. The courtyard had been transformed. Torches burned in silver sconces. White roses, impossibly fresh despite the winter cold, lined the aisle. The pack gathered in rows, hundreds of wolves dressed in their finest furs and leathers. Astrid stood in the castle, staring at her reflection. The gown fit perfectly. Her hair had been braided with silver thread and winter jasmine. She looked like something out of a legend. A moon goddess descended to claim a mortal king. Maren appeared beside her. "You are ready. I am not. No one ever is." The healer adjusted the cloak draped over Astrid's shoulders. "But you will walk out there anyway, because that is who you are." "What if I fail him? What if you do not?" Astrid met Maren's eyes in the mirror. "You think I can do this? I think you already have." A knock sounded at the door. One of Alaric's warriors, a scarred alpha named Gregor, bowed his head. "It is time, my lady." Astrid took a breath, then another. Then she turned and walked toward her fate. The courtyard fell silent as she emerged. Every eye turned to her. She felt their judgment, their curiosity, their doubt. But she kept her chin high and her steps steady. At the end of the aisle stood Alaric. He wore ceremonial armor, black steel etched with silver runes. His hair was loose, falling past his shoulders. His eyes glowed in the moonlight, gold and silver swirling together. He looked like a god of winter, and he was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Astrid reached him. He extended his hand. She took it. The pack elder stepped forward, an ancient beta woman with milky eyes and a voice that carried despite her frailty. "We gather under the gaze of the goddess to witness the bonding of souls. Alaric Frostborn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, do you claim this woman as your mate?" "I do." "Astrid of No Pack, do you accept this claim?" "I do." "Then speak your vows." Alaric turned to face her fully. His hands engulfed hers, warm and steady. "I vow to protect you, to honor you, to stand beside you in joy and sorrow, in peace and war, until the moon herself falls from the sky." Astrid's voice shook slightly, but did not break. "I vow to stand with you, to challenge you, to remind you that strength is not found in stone, but in the choice to keep loving, even when the world demands you harden your heart." The elder raised a silver blade. "Blood to blood, soul to soul." Alaric offered his palm. The elder cut swiftly. Blood welled, dark and rich. Then she turned to Astrid and did the same. They pressed their palms together. The moment their blood mingled, Astrid felt it, a thread snapping into place between them, binding her wolf to his, tying her soul to something ancient and unbreakable. The bond settled over her like a second skin. She gasped. Alaric's eyes flared gold. "I feel you. I feel you too." The elder smiled. "Then it is done. By blood and moon and the will of the goddess, you are bonded. Rise, Queen Astrid of Frostborn." The pack howled. The sound was deafening. Hundreds of voices raised in acknowledgement, in celebration, in acceptance. Alaric pulled her against him and kissed her before the entire assembly. It was not chaste, it was claiming, possessive. A declaration that she was his and he was hers, and no force in this world would change that. When they finally broke apart, Astrid's chest was heaving and her lips were swollen, and she had never felt more alive. The celebration began. Food, drink, music. Wolves danced under the moon. Children ran through the snow. For one night, the weight of the kingdom lifted. But Astrid saw the shadows at the edges, the counselors who did not join the revelry, the warriors who watched with hard eyes. She leaned close to Alaric. They are planning something. I know. When? Soon. Are you afraid? He looked down at her, his expression fierce and tender all at once. Only of losing you. You will not. Promise me. I promise. But even as she spoke the words, she felt the tremor in the bond, the sense of something dark gathering just beyond the torchlight, and she knew the hardest part was yet to come. The attack came 3 nights after the bonding. Astrid woke to the sound of shattering glass and Alaric's roar. She rolled out of bed instinctively, her body moving before her mind caught up. Stay down, Alaric commanded, but she was already shifting, her wolf tearing through her skin in a blur of silver fur and bared teeth. She had not shifted since Eric's rejection, but now the transformation felt natural, effortless. 3 rogues burst through the window. Their eyes were feral, their scents wrong, laced with something chemical, something that made her wolf snarl with revulsion. Wolfsbane. They had been drugged to resist the shift, to fight through pain that would cripple normal wolves. Alaric met the first attacker mid-leap, his jaws closing around the rogue's throat. Blood sprayed across the stone floor. The second lunged for Astrid. She dodged, her smaller frame giving her speed. Her teeth found the rogue's leg, tearing through muscle. He howled and kicked her away. She hit the wall hard, but was back on her feet in seconds. The third rogue ignored them both and ran for the door, not fleeing, but heading deeper into the castle, toward the throne room. Astrid's wolf understood instantly. This was not an assassination attempt. It was a distraction. She bolted after the fleeing rogue, her claws scrabbling against stone. Behind her, she heard Alaric finish the second attacker and give chase. The throne room doors were open. Inside, Torrin stood with 6 armed wolves, all members of the council's private guard. They had drawn weapons, silver blades that could kill even an alpha king. "Stand down," Alaric commanded as he and Astrid entered, both still in wolf form. Torrin's expression was cold. "I cannot do that, Your Majesty." Alaric shifted back to human form, his body covered in blood and his eyes blazing gold. "You dare commit treason in my own castle? I dare to save this kingdom from itself." Torrin gestured to the guards. "You have bonded with a rejected Omega. You have placed sentiment above duty. The northern packs are fracturing because they see weakness in their king. The only weakness here is your cowardice," Astrid said, shifting back. She stood naked and bloodied, but unashamed, her voice steady. "You cannot control him, so you try to kill him." "We are not trying to kill him. We are removing the source of his distraction." Torrin's eyes fixed on her. "You." The guards moved forward. Alaric stepped in front of Astrid, his body a shield. "If you touch her, I will burn this castle to the ground with all of you in it." "Then you prove my point. You would destroy everything for one woman." "Yes." Alaric's voice was deadly calm, because that is what it means to be alive, to care more about one soul than 1,000 crowns. Torrin shook his head. "Then you leave me no choice." He raised his hand. The guards attacked. What followed was carnage. Alaric moved like death itself, faster than any wolf Astrid had ever seen. He broke necks, tore throats, his grief transformed into violence so pure it was almost beautiful. But there were too many. A blade found his side. He staggered. Another blade raised above him. Astrid did not think. She shifted mid-leap, her wolf form colliding with the guard. They tumbled across the floor. She felt his blade slice across her ribs, but she did not let go. Her jaws found his throat, and she bit down until he stopped moving. When she looked up, Alaric had killed the remaining guards. Only Torin remained, backing toward the door. "You will regret this," Torin hissed. Alaric's hand shot out, grabbing the counselor by the throat. He lifted him off the ground effortlessly. "The only regret I have is not seeing your treachery sooner. Kill me, and the other packs will revolt. They already question your—" "Let them question." Alaric's grip tightened. "Let them come. Let them see what happens to those who threaten what is mine." Astrid shifted back, pressing her hand to her bleeding side. "Alaric, do not." He looked at her, his eyes wild. "Please," she whispered. "Mercy." "He tried to kill you. I know, but killing him makes you the monster they say you are. Sparing him proves you are still the king worth following." Alaric's jaw worked. His hand trembled. Then, slowly, he released Torin. The counselor collapsed, gasping. "You are exiled," Alaric said. "If you set foot in my territory again, I will give you the death you deserve. Now leave before I change my mind." Torin fled. The moment he was gone, Alaric turned to Astrid. His hands found the wound on her side, pressing against it to slow the bleeding. "You are hurt. It is not deep. You should not have interfered. You would have done the same for me." He pulled her against him, heedless of the blood soaking them both. "You saved my life. You saved mine first. We are even. No, we are bonded, which means your life is worth more than mine." She pulled back, glaring at him. "Do not ever say that again." "Astrid, no, we are equals, partners. If you die, I die. If I die, you die. That is what this bond means." Something in his expression cracked. He leaned his forehead against hers. "I thought I lost you." "You did not. But I could have. Yes, and I could lose you. That is the risk we take when we love." He kissed her then, desperate, grateful, aching. And when they finally pulled apart, Maren was standing in the doorway with healers behind her. "Let us tend your wounds," the head healer said gently. "Both of you." As they were led away to be stitched and bandaged, Astrid felt the bond hum between them, stronger now, forged in blood and choice and the willingness to stand together against the darkness. They had survived, but she knew this was only the beginning. Spring came slowly to the north. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown earth and the first green shoots of new growth. The frozen sea began to thaw, chunks of ice breaking apart and drifting south. Astrid stood on the same balcony where she had first spoken with Maren, watching the world wake from its long sleep. 3 months had passed since the attack. Torin had fled to the southern territories, where he spread rumors and gathered support among dissatisfied wolves. But the northern packs had held firm. They had seen their king fight for his mate. They had witnessed his willingness to choose mercy over vengeance. And slowly, grudgingly, they had begun to accept Astrid as their queen. She heard footsteps behind her. She did not need to turn to know who it was. The bond told her everything: his mood, his location, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. Alaric wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "You are thinking again." "I am always thinking." "What about this time?" "About how strange it is that 6 months ago I stood in an auction house believing I was nothing, and now I am a queen." "You were never nothing." "I felt like nothing." "I know." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "But you were wrong. You have always been everything." She turned in his arms. "Even when I am insufferable?" "Especially then." She smiled. Then her expression grew serious. "Torin will come back. I know. He will bring others. Let him. Alaric, no, Astrid, listen to me." His hands framed her face. "I spent 3 years afraid of feeling, of bonding, of risking my heart again. and that fear made me weak. But you taught me that strength is not found in armor or walls or keeping the world at a distance. It is found in the willingness to stand vulnerable and say, "This matters. This is worth fighting for." Tears pricked her eyes. "When did you become so wise?" "I learned from the best." She kissed him softly. "I love you. I love you too. And whatever comes next, war, peace, joy, sorrow, we will face it together." "Together," she echoed. A sound interrupted them, a child's laughter drifting up from the courtyard below. Astrid leaned over the balcony and saw a group of pups playing in the melting snow, their parents watching with tired smiles. "Do you ever think about it?" Alaric asked quietly. "About what?" "Children." Astrid's breath caught. "I do not know if I can have them." "That is not what I asked." She turned to look at him. "Yes, I think about it, about what it would mean to bring life into a world that can be so cruel. And I think, if we did, if we were blessed with that gift, I would want them to know that they came from two wolves who chose love even when the world told them not to, who believed that redemption was possible, who fought for each other every single day." Alaric's eyes shimmered. "You would be an extraordinary mother, and you would be an extraordinary father. We do not have to decide now, I know, but someday, she agreed. They stood together on the balcony, watching the world change, feeling the bond between them pulse with warmth and light, and the promise of all the tomorrows yet to come. Astrid thought about the girl she had been, rejected, broken, convinced she had nothing left to offer the world. And she thought about the woman she had become, a queen, a mate, a wolf who had learned that survival was not the same as living. "What are you thinking now?" Alaric murmured. "That I am glad you bought me that night." "So am I." "Even though I was expensive?" "Worth every mark." She laughed. The sound carried across the courtyard, bright and clear and full of all the joy she had thought she would never feel again. Because some stories do not end with happily ever after. They end with the promise to keep choosing each other, every day, through every storm, until the moon falls and the stars go dark. And that, Astrid thought, was better than any fairy tale. Alaric took her hand. "Come, the council is waiting. Let them wait. Astrid, 5 more minutes, please." He smiled, that rare, beautiful expression that made her heart soar. 5 more minutes. They stood together under the spring sky, two wolves who had been broken and remade, who had learned that redemption was not a destination, but a choice made again and again. And when they finally walked back into the castle, hand in hand, Astrid knew the truth. She was no longer the Omega the Alpha King had paid for. She was the woman his wolf obeyed, the queen his heart had chosen, the mate who had taught him that mercy was the greatest strength of all. And that was worth more than any crown. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe, because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.